What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Zero Takes channel. Today, we have a fun one. We are going to be discussing, recapping, and most importantly, reviewing Volume 1 of Stranger Things Season 5. I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on the first 4 episodes of Season 5, along with where I think the story might be going from here. And for this video, it's a little bit different. It's going to be more in tune of a podcast-like episode, where I'll be giving some rankings as well as thoughts on the characters at the end of the video, but more so just kind of my thoughts on the whole season. At this point, I am unfortunately contractually obligated to ask you all to like and subscribe and warn you that there are major spoilers ahead. So now at this point, we're going to be getting into the review. So let's just hop in and start about talking about episode 1, The Crawl. The first 5 minutes were released early, as we know. I found they're a good hook to get even more excited before the season and start building up a sense of intrigue toward the new season and kind of building up that sense of connection between Will, Vecna, and the Upside Down. As we know, like before, we knew that there was going to be a lot of questions and themes around Vecna, Will, and the Upside Down. So it was cool to see that straight away in episode 1. One part of that first episode, The Crawl, that I love is that right from the jump, all of our characters are in the same place and working together. This whole season does such a great job of showcasing how great this cast is when they're all in one place. They're not spread out in Russia and California. It's one of my biggest issues with season 4. Such a good job of showcasing how great they are together when they're in Hawkins and when they're actually interacting with each other. And it just kind of brings back that feeling of season 1, season 2 that we all kind of love and remember. Now I'm going to jump around this episode a little bit. I found the military stuff to be pretty decent, and Robin's radio exposition dump at the start was a pretty fun way to show us what's been going down since season 4 and to set up the stakes and the setting and everything that's going to be happening here in season 5. I love how the core 4 boys, Will, Dustin, Mike, and Lucas, were sticking up for each other in the high school, when Dustin's getting bullied for wearing the Hellfire merch. And later in the episode, I just feel that season 5 does such a great job of showing their friendship again and them being a group, actually being together again, because it hasn't really been that way since seasons 1 and 2 again. Season 3, 4, they were all split up, and I thought it was a good way of kind of bringing them back together. The 11 Hopper Joyce training scene was a little cheesy, I can't lie. And some parts of the season are pretty cheesy. A lot of the lines, not the greatest. I give it a little bit of grace because it's always been a little cheesy, but it's just something I picked up on. But I still think it fits pretty well in the story. Murray, pretty funny as Santa throughout these episodes, starting in episode 1. Not given too much screen time, but he makes the most of it when he gets his shot. And now I want to talk about the actual Crawl, the namesake of the episode. I find watching everyone do their part during the Crawl very entertaining. All working together in a heist type of way to sneak Hopper into the Upside Down, doing these crawls. They've done it, I think it was 31 times before, or something like that. I found it very entertaining. Everyone has a little piece of the puzzle to make this work. And I think that just really embodies, again, what Stranger Things is and why it's so great, why it's such a cultural phenomenon. That teamwork and camaraderie between the cast makes Stranger Things so great. And then another big part about this episode that I think is great is all the stuff between Holly and Mr. Whatsit. I'm going to be getting into him more, but now we kind of find later in the season that Vecna, Henry Creel 1 is Mr. Whatsit, which was pretty predictable. I mean, I don't know too many people who have watched this and thought it was anyone else but Vecna as Mr. Whatsit, but I still found that all those scenes with Holly and Mr. Whatsit pretty unsettling, and both those characters were pretty good in this first episode. And then finally, the ending with everything going wrong and Will seeing the Demogorgon going to the Wheelers and going after Holly was a really great ending to this episode. I thought it was so engaging, and throughout the season, I think one of the coolest like shot perspectives they do is when we see Will looking through the eyes of the Demogorgon or through the eyes of Vecna going for his targets, and especially in that last episode, just really cool like cinematography for those scenes. Got a shout out Big Teddy Wheeler for the distraction, and I guess attempting to fight the Demogorgon off. If you watch my last video, I really thought he was toast. I thought he was going to be so dead. So I was kind of surprised that later on when we saw him being rushed to the hospital, I honestly was surprised that he even survived that encounter. And then kind of like mixing between the two seasons, between the two episodes, episode 1 and 2, just kind of want to talk about Karen as well. Got to shout her out for doing her all fighting off the demos, or the Demogorgon, as well, like with that wine bottle. I mean, we kind of knew that she wasn't going to do much with it, but it was still pretty impressive, pretty entertaining. I was pretty 50-50, again, if you watch that last video about Karen dying, just because how involved Holly was going to be, like the title of the next episode, The Vanishing of Holly Wheeler. I kind of knew that Karen was going to be pretty central to a storyline involving that. I was kind of surprised seeing it kind of more unfold in episode 1, but I was pretty 50-50 on her dying, so her kind of going into that state of shock, not knowing if she will survive or not, heading into volume 2, kind of along where my prediction was for her. And I still think there's a chance that one or two of them, or either one of them, die. I mean, it's probably going to be Ted, but there's always a chance. Yeah. I'm going to get into episode 2. And I would say this one was probably my least favorite of the 4 that dropped in volume 1, but it could just be due to its, shorter runtime. Also, the ending of Mr. What's It being Henry, like I said, was just so predictable. I think everyone at that point knew it was going to be Vecna. I mean, I don't know a person, again, who didn't know that. And, like, when they were, like, when Karen at the end was writing out the letters and she gets to that H, I already, like, it was just very kind of anticlimactic, but I still think that scene was dramatic enough to be impactful, but just wasn't really enough for me in that moment. So that's why I think episode 2 is kind of my least favorite of the 4. Walk 'em down Wheeler and 11 pulling up was pretty badass, but just too late. I like that whole scene with Will kind of seeing in, and then they get there. We don't know when they're going to get there. They get there too late. And I like how 11 was just gung-ho about going into the Upside Down, trying to chase down the Demogorgon with Holly. I liked how Nancy was like, go, go, go. She trusts 11 enough to get shit done. And I thought that instance of someone heading into the Upside Down made a lot more sense than a certain other group of people going later into this volume. I think it happened in episode 4, but I'll get to that a little later. The Hopper and 11 stuff in episode 2, after they reunite, was pretty decent. Don't have much more to talk about at this point. I mean, the wall was pretty cool, but I mean, and again, that's more of like a theory, diving into theory realm, because we don't really know what it's all about. But for volume 2, it's all right. We'll see where it leads us. One thing that I do enjoy about volume 2 is that there was a lot of good character developing moments and good like dialogue between characters, in my opinion. I especially kind of enjoyed Mike and Nancy's interactions, making them feel like an actual family after so many seasons. Because at the start of the series, they have that sense of family, and they're in Hawkins, and then they get all split up. Mike's not really with Nancy, and you kind of like lose that sense of family between those two characters, in my opinion. And now we're kind of seeing it be fully fleshed out with their parents in the hospital. And I kind of just like all those hospital scenes, like when those two are talking with Lucas, him saying there's no coincidences. I really like that. And character development stuff between Steve and Dustin, don't love it, but I think there's a reason, and I think it'll be a lot more fleshed out in Volume 2. While I don't truly enjoy it, I see the purpose and I see where both sides are coming from. I'll get into that more later when I kind of delve deeper into like how I think their characters, all these characters, have been portrayed this season so far. The dynamic between Robin, Will, and Joyce was a little long, in my opinion, but a very necessary piece of this season's puzzle. I do admit at first I hated the idea of Will and Robin going off and using Will's visions to try to find clues, and I thought that it would backfire before it kind of fleshed out. I thought they would get into trouble. I mean, at that point, we don't know if the Demogorgons can kind of tap in the opposite way, look through Will's eyes. At least in my mind, I was thinking that. But after watching it and how it played out, I really did enjoy that storyline and felt that their findings were way more intense and entertaining than what the Wheelers eventually found with Karen. So I was very iffy on that going through that episode, but at the end, I really enjoyed that piece of the puzzle. Now, getting into episode 3, the Turnbow Trap. I just think this episode was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. Got to start out with dipshit Derek. He was very funny. Going to the show, I thought I was really going to hate him. But then again, like thinking about it now, every season they kind of introduce, I mean, apart from season 1, but every season they kind of introduce a character that is likable or entertaining in some way. Like season 2, you get Max and Billy. Now, Billy's not too likable, but he's very entertaining. Max is obviously very likable. Season 3, you get Robin and Erica. I mean, she's kind of in it, but you really get Erica. And, I mean, season 4, Argyle's pretty entertaining, so I guess it's my bad going into it kind of judging dipshit Derek at the start, but he was good in both phases of his character that we've seen so far. And I thought it was very funny when he was laughing out loud at his dad passing out. It was cool to see Will at the school identify Derek as the next target as well, kind of going into that Robin and Will storyline of last episode, and I thought that was all a pretty decent storyline. And like that going into their plan for the episode, I thought it was a very like good way to bridge them finding out that Mr. Whatsit's Vecna and that Will can see into the victims when he's close enough, and them formulating that plan. I really like that. I think my least favorite part about episode 3, if we have to really break it down into these storyline chunks, would be the upside down stuff with Levin and Hop. It's not my favorite. It's not bad at all, but I just think that's where I like, if I tuned out at all, that was kind of where I was tuning out at. The whole siren thing that shuts 11 down is interesting, but I think it's kind of a little lazy. I guess we'll see more about what that's about in Volume 2, but I still enjoyed their piece. It's just the part that kind of lost interest for me the most. But inversely, I think the Home Alone plan that they come up with in the Right Side Up in Hawkins, that was so much fun. My favorite part of the episode, 100%. I mean, I don't know too many people who don't like Home Alone. I really like Home Alone. And that whole plan just reeks of Home Alone. And it could just be that a couple of our characters are together, but there's just something about that plan that's so much fun. It's like a perfect mix of the first 4 seasons. You have like the whole sense of togetherness, like the first two, along with like just how stunning it looks, like showing from season 3 and 4. Because the first 2 seasons, everything was kind of like dark and clouded, but you really had that togetherness of the cast. Season 3 and 4, they're not all together, but the cinematography and the storylines are just so great that I think that plan kind of embodies the whole show from what we've seen. It gives you that sense from the first 2 seasons and that cinematography and that growth that this story has gone through in seasons 3 and 4, and it just kind of combines it within this plan. I thought Erica's villain scene was super funny. Seeing that her not eating the pie, arguing at the table, pulling the syringe out, that was all very entertaining. And it was really cool to see the actual plan, getting the Demogorgon to fall for the fake Derek and trapping it, hitting it with the tracker. I thought that was all very good. And then once dipshit Derek took that mask off and ruined the plan, I felt the writing got a little lackluster for some characters, but that again goes into like one of my least favorite parts from the season in the last episode. But that whole plan was pretty cool, cannot lie. Now, the 3rd episode ends with Holly as her storyline leads her from the mysterious house that Mr. Whatsit has her at, that Creel house in the memories or whatever we come to find it to be, as her breaking his rules and going into the woods after receiving that letter from the mystery person, only to run into Max herself, or her soul is what I like to think it of. I don't really know what you'd call it, but I kind of picture it as her soul. And I thought that was pretty good. Very surprising. I didn't really think it was going to be Max. I kind of thought it was going to be more of like a villain character, maybe even like Billy, but I liked that it was Max a lot. And I think it goes into some pretty cool storylines into the last episode. Overall, episode 3 was a fun episode and had a great build up into the stunner that will be episode 4. Now jumping into episode 4, The Sorcerer. There's so much that is great about this episode, and I'm sure you've all heard about it. So I'll try to make this a little quicker because everyone kind of knows, especially if you're watching this. If you're watching this and don't know, I mean, what are you doing? But especially if you're watching this, you know how good that episode is. We're going to hit these points not in order, but just in the order I think of them in. Starting with Will. Him truly becoming the sorcerer after the talks with Robin and straight up Vecnaing the demos was quite possibly the best scene of the show in its entirety, I think. It was so epic. He was ore farming at the end, especially with the nosebleed wipe, and I just love all that stuff at the end, especially with that talk with Robin and him like him finding his true self. It was all so good. The finding of 8 after Hopper and 11 break into the army facility, I felt that was pretty shocking. We knew at a certain point that it wasn't going to be Vecna, so it was kind of leading into 8, if you had to think about it, but coming into this, I didn't really expect her to be in it. I thought they were just trying to do a little spin-off, and then after everyone hated that episode, the only bad episode of Stranger Things, I thought they were just going to throw that character away. So it was a little surprising in that aspect, but I did enjoy that. I'm a little hesitant on where that'll go. I hope that she's not like brought in and like becomes super interactive with the cast and like has a bunch of lines and a bunch of stuff to do. I kind of want her to be more on the sidelines because again, she doesn't have that character development and that camaraderie with the squad to where I want her to be a huge part of the show, but I'm a little hesitant to see where that'll go. 11 was cool as always, and Hopper was pretty ruthless. I mean, 11 breaking in, killing people, doesn't really get old. I wasn't the biggest fan of Hopper going for the, self-bombing, we'll say here, of what they think is Vecna. I'm glad he kind of changed his mind on that. We'll get more into that a little later into the video when we talk about Hop and his character, especially regarding him in 11. But that was my favorite, but I'm glad he changed his mind. Um, all that stuff in the facility with Kay was pretty decent. I like that a lot. Now, the Mac story, again, heartbreaking. Seeing how close she really was to waking up was just so sad. I'm looking forward to seeing her and Holly escaping what they call Kamadzops, I think is how you say it. I'm not going to put any money on that pronunciation, but I'm going for it. That is the episode of, or the title of the episode of episode 6, I think. It's one of the episode titles in volume 2. So we know that they will escape. It's going to be interesting to see how they end up doing that, if the other kids that are taken are going to be kind of incorporated into that. But her story was really sad. Vecna not being able to enter the cave was all good. I know if you've watched or at least read about the play, I read about it a little before the season dropped, because I didn't even know about it until like a week before the first 4 episodes came out. But apparently that's where he kind of developed his powers. There was like a experiment by Brenner in New Mexico in a cave, and he was exploring, him and his Boy Scout stuff, but it was just him exploring, and he gets sent to the Upside Down and kind of gets corrupted. So that's why he doesn't really want to go in the cave. I want to see how they kind of play that out in the story. But I thought that was all cool. That was just like a little Easter egg, I guess, for people who know about the play, why he won't kind of go into the cave, or why he's at least scared of it. One thing I'm worried about, they did do a little Chekhov's gun, her dropping the spyglass when she was getting chased by Max. I really hope that doesn't come to bite him in the butt when they're trying to escape, or maybe that's how Mr. Whatsit kind of knows that she's been into the woods and talking with Max. I kind of am predicting that. That's probably going to happen. You're not going to show her dropping that just for it not to happen, but we'll see where that goes. Now, the storyline of them trying to evacuate, them meaning like Joyce, Will, Mike, Robin, Lucas, trying to evacuate the kids outside of the military quarters into the tunnels was hilarious. And seeing Delightful Derek was just so funny as well. Kind of one of the highlights of the season in a way. Him smacking the fuck out of the other kids when it was their time to go into the tunnel was also just comedy. He was really hitting them. And the part where the snitch girl comes in and sees Mike and Will fixing the thing, and the little kid pops his head out of the hole. That was also just so funny. So some really good comedic scenes in this episode. Now, once everything kind of goes to shit and the Demogorgons attack the facility, it was really cool to see Mike take charge and lead the group. I mean, Will's having his visions and kind of out of commission for a little bit. Obviously won't be out of commission for long, but was out of commission for a little bit. And Mike leading the kids, leading Joyce and Will, trying to get them to safety in that epic like one shot or multiple shots was so cool. And also flipping from like what Will sees technically when the Demogorgons attack them, like their vision of attacking the army troopers was just super cool too. Like them jumping through the walls, ripping it open. Obviously the alley-oop was sweet. And I just liked all that. Once they were in the tunnels with Lucas and the kids, I thought that was really scary. For me, Lucas is kind of on the edge of dying, or at least from what I predicted. So as I was watching that and seeing like him trapped with 2 Demogorgons in the tunnels, he even got hit, I should say. Pretty scary. I was pretty worried for Lucas in that moment. I thought he could have died. Um, but obviously Will saves him. That Will scene was just great. You gotta keep. I just keep coming back to it. But no, I thought Lucas was cool. Very good leader in that moment too, trying to save the kids. Something I've seen a lot from people after it was how much they've kind of been acting like Steve. Like they are now like the older kids trying to protect these younger kids, and kind of has parallels back to like what Steve was doing with them in season 2, season 3. And I enjoyed that. Was also pretty scared for Robin when it was just Robin and Murray on their little quest to drive the kids out, and there was 3 demos attacking them. I was very scared for both of them. I predicted Murray to die in these first 4. Like I was pretty damn confident on it. So not seeing him die was pretty cool. Was definitely scared for Robin the same way I was scared for Mike and Lucas in that moment. But yeah. And then we're gonna talk about Vecna. He was cold, man. His entrance was cold. His kills were cold. That bowling ball kill. Oh my god. He was also ore farming him and Will. And I think it was a really smart decision to have us wait to see him, other than the flashback at the very start of episode 1. I thought it was very smart to wait to show us him till the very end of this volume, build up that tension, and it worked. His entrance scene, his all of his kills, pulling the nades, and it was just awesome. Don't really understand what he's going for with Will. Like he just kind of pulls him in, makes him feel bad, but everything else with Vecna in that moment was just really awesome. Now, if I had one downside of this episode, it's everything that happens with Nancy, Steve, Jonathan, and Dustin. And I thought their storyline was just kind of mid and definitely kind of annoying. I think that chasing the demo into the upside down through the car was just such a stupid idea. Like, yeah, they found the wall and they eventually find that it's a circle and that the lab is in the middle. But they've already found that if they're driving in the right side up, that they reach that point, there's static there. There's an interference. They could find all those points in the right side up and come to that same conclusion. So I just felt like them having to go in the upside down was more just like, oh, we need more people in the upside down. We need more stakes. They can't stay with the rest of the group. So I don't know. I just kind of found like them chasing the demo into the upside down through the portal. The car was so silly. And like, I get that they'd have to wait for Hopper to come back up to maybe find Hopper at least, but I'm pretty sure they're confident with 11 being able to beat anything in the upside down and make her way out. So I don't know. I just thought that part, that whole storyline with those 4, Dustin, Jonathan, Steve, and Nancy, was kind of lackluster in my opinion. But overall, this season, season 5, these first 4 episodes are building up to be probably the best season of the show. 100%, in my opinion, will be, but we have to see how it plays out. The ending could obviously, it could be a Game of Thrones ending. You never know, but I think that with what they've built so far, there's no doubt in my mind that it'll be the best. Now, going forward, there's a couple theories that I like. I think I want to do a video soon, kind of going over some of the theories, some of them bigger, some of them smaller. We'll get to that in a few days, I think. But now I want to discuss my thoughts on the characters, just kind of looking at them under a microscope this season regarding like their themes, narrative so far. I'm going to start with Will because he's kind of been, in my opinion, the biggest part of these first 4 episodes. Will's been great. This is his best season since season 2. I mean, he's probably the best character so far in these 4 episodes. Obviously, everything in episode 4 is amazing, but also the talks and character growth surrounding like his sexuality and his talks with Robin have been great. His talks with Joyce about being babied and like kind of telling her like, hey, we need to lock in. We need to use what I have as a plus. We can't just keep me in bubble wrap. I really like that. And I just think his character development this season has been one of the best parts of the show. Next, I'm going to talk about Mike. He finally has something to do again. And who would have guessed it? He's been great the whole season. They finally give him something to do, something real to do, and he's been great. Feels like the first 2 seasons again. He's had great leadership, great friendship, and the plot lines and dialogue that have oozed out of Mike this season have just been great. All this stuff with Will, all the stuff with the core 4 boys, well, I guess 3 other boys have been great. The stuff with Nancy was good. And I think he's just been one of the MVPs of the season, for me at least. We're going to talk about Lucas. He hasn't had the biggest impact on the season so far. I know a lot of people have been hating his lines of dialogue and his delivery, but I don't think it's been that bad. I don't hate it as everyone else. He plays his role. He's pretty entertaining when they're doing the crawl. He's has his moments when they're doing the Home Alone stuff at the Turnbow house, and all the scenes, of course, with Lucas and Max. You know, him in the hospital, keep wishing for Max to get out of the coma. All of those are just heartbreaking, so I think he's been pretty good so far. Now we're going to get into some of the more controversial storylines of the season. I'm first going to talk about 3 characters. These are the 3 most, I think, controversial storylines of the season. I'm going to be first talking about like Dustin and Steve and that dynamic together because it's kind of only been that. And then I'll go in to talk about Dustin a little more. Or maybe talk about Dustin first and then get into it. But we're going to talk about Dustin and Steve first. For Dustin, it's understandable why he's acting so moody and lashing out all season. Like, his fight was cool at the beginning, but we get why. Like, Eddie died. He's being, like, vilified all over the town for his supposed murders last season, and I get why he's so sad, and him passing, making Dustin so sad. It's understandable, and his grief, Dustin's grief throughout the season, is understandable. But it still has been frustrating. Like, I get it, but he needs to like lock in and express his feelings more in the next volume. Like he's kind of keeping it in, and at the start, like Steve was trying to help him out, and Dustin wasn't letting Steve in, and then it's just consistent bickering, and it's been pretty annoying. So for that dynamic, like they're bickering, I get it, but it just got to a point, especially in that last episode, where it was too cartoonish. Like it was so, it just didn't make sense, especially when they are in the upside down driving and they're just arguing in the front seat and end up crashing into the wall. Like that is so cartoonish and silly and just outright annoying for a show, especially that episode where everything has been like top notch, top tier. For that duo especially, who have brought us like so much joy in some of the best parts of other seasons, to be the worst part, in my opinion, this season maybe, was pretty underwhelming, and I just didn't really like that. Now I want to talk about the dynamic between Steve and Jonathan, because Jonathan doesn't really have much to do in the story again. He's not doing much. Everything that he does kind of revolves around Nancy. And if it's not revolving around Nancy, it's revolving around Steve. Now, we knew that love triangle was going to be a thing, but I didn't really expect it to be the only character motive or kind of drive for Jonathan this season. And then Steve only gets 2, and it's him arguing with Dustin, or it's him trying to show off for Nancy and going against Jonathan. So, I mean, both of those have been just really frustrating. Like, the love triangle, it's fun at some points, but dumb at others. The climbing of the tower was so goofy. Like, we can't get around that. Them climbing up. It's a goofy scene. Like, yeah, there's a little fun in it, but it's just so goofy. Now, Jonathan and Steve's argument in the car, I found that to be pretty entertaining. Um, I thought both of them brought up some good points, and like I thought that was a good scene. Probably the only good scene with them kind of going back and forth. So for that, I agree. I think that's their both of their probably their best moments of the season. But again, Jonathan just has nothing to do other than wanting to propose, which, if I'm going to be honest, would not be shocked if Nancy said no because they were already drifting apart, and I wouldn't be surprised if neither of those two ended up with Nancy. So that whole dynamic is just not my favorite, which kind of sucks because going into this, like Steve is probably my favorite character, and they're just giving him two pretty lame or lackluster storylines. Hating that. A lot of people love Dustin. I love Dustin. His storyline, while understandable, is pretty frustrating. And then Jonathan has just been sidelined for the past 2 seasons and just kind of sucks. I want justice for all three of them. Like let them all be at least Steve and Jonathan. Let them be characters again. Let them be themselves again. I get the I understand that there will be, more of a character arc for Dustin and he's gonna kind of become himself again. But for Steve and Jonathan, I don't know if that's gonna happen. Maybe on the Dustin side for Steve, but we just gotta see how Volume 2 plays out. We're gonna get into Nancy. She's been straight to business. She's been focused on trying to find Holly, take down Vecna. She had those good emotional character scenes with her mom and Mike in the first 2 episodes, and hasn't really been affected by the drama between Steve and Jonathan. And I think she's been pretty good. Not her best season, but she's been pretty damn good so far. A big part of this season, has been Robin, and she has been great so far, in my opinion. Robin has had a great character season, and her little romance with Vicky has been good. I've enjoyed that. All those scenes helps out Will in a way, and those scenes with Will have just been great. Like she's almost becoming what Steve was to Dustin, or still is, I guess, to Dustin, kind of being that older mentor in a way, which I think you probably could have given some of that to Jonathan, but hey, they gave a lot of it to Robin, which makes sense. I mean, they share a little more, well, a lot more in this case, similarities for what Will's working with, but I think the Will and Robin stuff has been really good. Now, a lot of people say there's a lot of dialogue that is not great and can be corny. I agree. She's a little airheaded. Um, my friends are calling her lobotomy Robin, but I feel like while it is definitely corny sometimes, I think a lot of it is to do with her becoming more comfortable around her main group because she was introduced 2 seasons ago. She's kind of like last season she got to know like Nancy pretty well. She obviously knows Steve, but I think she's getting comfortable around a lot more of our main cast of characters, and she's kind of becoming more safe and friendlier around them, and like expressing herself more is how I see it. So yeah, it is a little corny sometimes, but for the most part, I think she's been really great. We're gonna move on to Max. For what we've seen, she's been great. All of her stuff has been so sad so far. Her choosing to stay in that mindscape instead of escape because she has to. It's been sad. Her not being able to get out of the coma, obviously very sad. But all good from Max so far. I think Holly's been a pretty good addition to the season so far. I mean, her actress has been doing good for being young. I mean, she's probably the same age as the core 4 and 11 were when they were introduced. So I think she's done just as good of a job as they did when they were introduced. And I think she really sells the scenes with Mr. Whatsit, and I enjoy that storyline. I think that's been a really good addition to the story. All the stuff with Mr. Whatsit was pretty unsettling in my opinion. Just all good stuff there. We're gonna get into Joyce now. She did not have a lot to do again, which I mean she was pretty much the main or one of the main stars in season 1, season 2, and then the past couple. I mean her in Russia in season 4, side plot. I mean thought she was good in it, but hasn't had a lot to do again for kind of the third season running. So I'd like to see her kind of get more involved. Obviously, the stuff with Will being overprotective, I like that. I mean, of course, she would be after everything. Um, Again, I'd like to see maybe some stuff with her and Jonathan. Like, do something with Jonathan, do something with Joyce, please. And it was cool when she stood up to Vecna, but obviously she wasn't gonna do anything of substance. But I think she's been good with what she's had to work with so far. Now we're gonna move on to Hopper. Now this might be a little controversial, but I don't love everything dealing with Hopper this season, especially with him battling with sacrificing himself again. He's had too many fake deaths and close calls, and I'm just glad that he came to that decision to stay with his daughter 11 and not leave her. Seeing that he would leave, like if he goes in there and it actually is Vecna, which we obviously know it's not, but if he goes in there and does what he says he does, he's gonna leave 11 emotionally feeling like how he felt when his own daughter Sarah died. Like that is how 11's gonna feel if he dies. We've already seen how sad it was when he supposedly died at the end of episode 3. That was heartbreaking for 11. It's just gonna be the same thing again. So I'm glad they didn't go that route. And I'm glad like he got to decide that instead of like something forcing him to not go through with his plan. So I enjoyed that. And obviously he's just been badass the whole season. He's usually badass, so that's nothing that's par for the course for him. All the crawl stuff was pretty cool with Hopper, but I'm just glad that he came to that decision, and I'm hoping that he's gonna have some pretty cool character moments with 11 for the rest of the show. We'll get into 11 now. She's doing typical 11 things. I like the stuff with her and Hopper from her side, like, and just how they have kind of progressed. She's really locked in. Like, her and Hopper, like I said, have had their ups and downs, like season 2, she runs away. Then season 3, he dies. She doesn't really see him in in season 4. So I'm glad that they're together at least in this volume of season 5. And I think that she's definitely going to call Hopper dead at the end of the show. I mean, they've kind of been building up to it, so I'm looking forward to seeing that from her. If we're talking about volume 2 for 11, there are so many different routes that I could see the show going. I'm really hoping she doesn't die, but I can almost see it happening. I'm really hoping that they get to have that father-daughter relationship and everything works out, but I'm a little worried for it at this point. Now we're going to get into some of the more random characters, or characters that haven't been too influential or too shown in the season that I'll just kind of brush over. Kay, who is the kind of lead military person in the Upside Down, that lady from Terminator. She's nowhere near what Papa was. She's not as villainous. She's not as engaging or entertaining, and she just feels like an annoying placeholder villain. Like when she's on the screen, I don't care about her. I'm sorry, I don't. Like I wish there was something that would make it better, but she's just like nothing in my opinion. Karen and Ted were both pretty fired this season so far. Ted gets his shit rocked. Karen fights back a little better, but I thought they were both of those characters were pretty good with the screen time they've had. All the army people, I'm just going to bunch them all in together. They did their parts. The one they were interrogating was a cool scene, but they're all just pretty much background characters. I talked about Vecna previously. Obviously, he was great, but the Demogorgons this season, holy shit, they were on demon time. They were the best they've ever been. Now I know that a lot of people think they're cooler when they're kind of surrounded in darkness and more mysterious, and I kind of agree. But it's also just really cool to see them go crazy and destroy the army base. And I thought they were just so cool this season. I don't love how fast they can open up the portals. Like I guess we've never really seen that before, like the speed or them actually like really doing it. But I don't know. I just thought they were so cool this season. Again, 8 is back. I don't really know how I feel about that. That's just something I'm gonna let play out. Like I'll go into some theories in my next video about it, but I really just want to see what they do. I hope they don't do too much with that. Um, let's see, Erica. She ate up every scene she was in. She was great. Murray. He was fun as always, being Santa now this season. Quarantine Santa. I'm still very scared for him. I don't think he's gonna make it, but he's always a delight to see on the screen. And then lastly, for the characters, um, I think it was just fun to see Mr. Clark again. I think they're gonna go back to him in Volume 2. Obviously, he was talking to his class with Erica in it about wormholes. Now, typically, when we see Mr. Clark and he's teaching about something or teaching Joyce about something or telling the kids about something, it typically comes back up in the next episode or in the next couple episodes after, or that's usually kind of what's going on. Thinking back to like the flea. So that makes me a little worried that it's going to be something time travel-y or wormhole-y. I'm kind of leaning that it will be just because that's what Mr. Clark does. He shows up, he talks his shit, and he gets shit done. But it was fun to see him again. I'm worried it's going to go in that direction because I don't know if I love the whole time travel thing. We've seen it so much lately, especially with like Endgame and stuff. So I'm kind of hoping it doesn't go that way, but I really think it might. Now I'm just going to give some more thoughts, getting close to the end here. I think the first four episodes of the season, have been just fantastic. Some of the best of the whole show, and I hope they keep this pace up for the end, for the last 4 episodes. It's hard to see how they wouldn't, but I'm really just loving how this is going, and I want it to go on forever. This season has had the strongest start, in my opinion, out of all the 4 seasons, and I think it's just going to be the best. There are ways they can mess it up, but I really trust the Duffers here, and I think they'll get it done. But that about wraps up my Stranger Things review, my review on Volume 1 of Stranger Things Season 5. I'll be looking to post my next video discussing some of the most popular theories, or some of the lower theories as well, for Volume 2 of Season 5 in the next coming days. Stuff like the Thessal Hydra, the Spyglass, time travel. I'll talk about Byler if I have to, and more on that. But anyways, thanks again for you all watching, and hope you enjoyed.